All right, let's dive straight into the psychology of Sigma males. This topic resonates deeply with those who feel like they walk a path less traveled, and it's something that fascinates people who yearn for independence and self-mastery. If you're here, you're probably already aware that the Sigma male archetype is about being a lone wolf, someone who thrives outside traditional societal hierarchies. But what people don't often talk about are the unique challenges that come with this way of being. Let me take you on a journey to explore the 7 problems only Sigma males will understand. And trust me, if you're a Sigma male, you'll feel this in your bones. Imagine this. You're in a crowded room full of chatter, and you're observing everything. You notice the dynamics, the subtle power plays, the superficial conversations that people engage in just to feel part of something bigger. But you don't feel the need to jump in. You don't feel the urge to compete for attention or approval. You're not playing the social game. And while this gives you an edge in terms of self-awareness and independence, it also isolates you. This is the first problem: isolation. When you don't follow the herd, you often find yourself walking alone. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, solitude can be incredibly empowering. But let's be honest, there are moments when the silence gets deafening. Humans are social creatures, after all, and even the most independent Sigma males can't completely escape the need for connection. The difference is that we don't crave shallow connections. We want depth, authenticity, and meaning in our interactions. And because these types of connections are rare, we sometimes feel like aliens in a world that thrives on surface-level relationships. It's not that we're antisocial, it's that social norms don't align with who we are. This dissonance often leads to a sense of being misunderstood.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
The second problem is the burden of self-reliance. As Sigma males, we pride ourselves on being self-sufficient, on not needing others to validate our worth or guide our path. But here's the catch. When you're the one everyone relies on, who do you rely on? When you build your identity around being independent, asking for help feels like a betrayal of your own principles. And so, you carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, even when it's crushing you. People see your strength, your composure, and assume you've got it all figured out. They don't see the sleepless nights, the internal battles, the moments of doubt. Being self-reliant is a double-edged sword. It gives you freedom, but it also makes you vulnerable in ways most people can't see. Now, let's talk about the third problem: the constant pressure to adapt. As Sigma males, we're adaptable by nature. We can navigate different social environments without losing our sense of self. But this adaptability comes at a cost. It's exhausting to constantly adjust to a world that doesn't operate on your wavelength. You find yourself blending in just enough to avoid unnecessary attention, but not so much that you lose your individuality. It's a delicate balancing act, and it takes a toll over time. Sometimes you wish you could just exist as you are, without having to modulate your energy to fit the situation. But the reality is, the world isn't designed for people who think and operate outside the box. So, you adapt, because that's what Sigma males do. And yet, in the process, you sometimes feel like you're losing pieces of yourself. The fourth problem is the difficulty of finding purpose. As Sigma males, we're not content with following a predefined path. We don't want to climb the corporate ladder just because society tells us that's the measure of success. We don't want to settle into a role that doesn't align with our values or passions. But carving your own path is no easy feat. It requires a level of introspection and perseverance that most people never have to confront. And because we don't fit into traditional molds, we often face resistance from the world around us. People question our choices, our motivations, our way of life. They don't understand that for us, success isn't about money or status, it's about freedom and authenticity. But finding a purpose that aligns with these values is a lifelong journey, one that's filled with uncertainty and doubt. And sometimes, the weight of that uncertainty can feel overwhelming. The fifth problem is the struggle with vulnerability. As Sigma males, we're masters of control. We control our emotions, our actions, our environment. But vulnerability requires letting go of that control, and that's something we're not accustomed to. It's not that we don't feel deeply, we do. In fact, our emotional depth is one of our greatest strengths. But expressing that depth, that's where we struggle. We fear that opening up will make us appear weak or expose us to judgment. And so we keep our emotions guarded, revealing only what's necessary to navigate the world. But in doing so, we sometimes miss out on the deeper connections we crave. Vulnerability is a risk, and as Sigma males, we're wired to minimize risks. But the truth is, without vulnerability, there can be no true intimacy or connection. The sixth problem is the constant questioning of societal norms. As Sigma males, we're natural skeptics. We don't take things at face value, we question everything. Why do people chase material wealth? Why do they conform to societal expectations that don't serve them? Why do they prioritize appearances over substance? These questions drive us to seek a deeper understanding of the world, but they also alienate us from those who are content to follow the status quo. It's not easy being the one who sees through the facade, who challenges the norm, who refuses to settle for mediocrity. It's a lonely path, but it's also a fulfilling one. Because in questioning the world, we find our own truth. And that truth is what sets us free. Finally, the seventh problem is the paradox of freedom. As Sigma males, we value our freedom above all else. We don't want to be tied down by societal expectations, relationships, or obligations that don't align with our values. But freedom comes with its own challenges. When you're free to choose your own path, you're also responsible for the consequences of those choices. There's no one else to blame, no system to fall back on. And sometimes that level of responsibility can feel overwhelming. It's the price we pay for our independence, and it's a price we're willing to pay. But it's not without its challenges. Now that we've explored the 7 problems Sigma males face, let's dive deeper into what it all means on a practical level. Because here's the thing, just understanding these challenges isn't enough. As Sigma males, we don't just analyze problems, we solve them. We're wired to adapt, to grow, to evolve. And while these challenges are part of the Sigma experience, they're not insurmountable. In fact, they're what make us stronger, sharper, and more resilient. So let's take a closer look at how we can navigate these issues and turn them into opportunities for growth. Let's go back to the first problem, isolation. The reality is, isolation cuts both ways. On the one hand, it's a source of clarity and strength. When you're alone, you're not influenced by the noise of the world. You can think deeply, reflect honestly, and make decisions that are true to who you are. But on the other hand, prolonged isolation can lead to loneliness, and loneliness can erode even the strongest minds. The key is to find a balance. You don't need to surround yourself with people just for the sake of it. That's not who we are. But you do need to seek out meaningful connections. And here's the trick. Focus on quality over quantity. Find people who share your values, who challenge your thinking, who respect your boundaries. These are the relationships that will nourish you, not drain you. And remember, connection doesn't always have to be face-to-face. In today's world, you can find like-minded individuals online, through books, or even through shared experiences. The point is to remind yourself that while solitude is powerful, connection is what makes us human. Now, let's tackle the second problem, the burden of self-reliance. This is where many Sigma males struggle, myself included. We take pride in being able to handle things on our own, in being the rock for others. But here's the truth that no one likes to admit. Even the strongest people need support. Even the most independent minds need a sounding board. The key is to redefine what asking for help means. It's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of wisdom. Think about it. When you collaborate with others, you're not giving up your independence. You're leveraging their strengths to amplify your own. It's like building a fire. You might be able to light the spark on your own, but if someone else has the wood, the fire burns brighter and longer. So don't be afraid to lean on others when you need to. It doesn't make you less of a Sigma, it makes you more human. The third problem, the constant pressure to adapt, is something we've all felt. As Sigma males, we're chameleons. We can blend into any environment, navigate any social situation. But this adaptability can be draining. It's like wearing a mask. It protects you, but it also hides who you really are. The solution here is to choose your battles. Not every situation requires you to adapt. Sometimes it's okay to stand out, to let your true self shine, even if it makes others uncomfortable. And when you do have to adapt, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. Don't change who you are just to fit in or avoid conflict. Adapt because it serves your goals, because it aligns with your values, because it allows you to move closer to the life you want to live. And don't forget to take off the mask when you're alone. Give yourself permission to just be, without the need to perform or conform. This is where your true power lies. The fourth problem, finding purpose, is perhaps the most existential of all. As Sigma males, we're not content with living on autopilot. We need a reason to get up in the morning, a mission that drives us. But finding that mission can feel like searching for a needle in a haystack. The trick is to start small. You don't have to figure out your life's purpose in one grand epiphany. Instead, focus on what excites you, what challenges you, what makes you lose track of time. Follow those breadcrumbs, and they'll lead you to something bigger. And don't be afraid to pivot. Your purpose isn't set in stone, it evolves as you do. The key is to stay curious, to keep exploring, to keep pushing the boundaries of what you think is possible. Purpose isn't something you find, it's something you create. And as Sigma males, we have the unique ability to craft a life that's true to who we are, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. Now, let's address the fifth problem, vulnerability. This is a tough one because it goes against everything we've been taught about strength and control. But here's the paradox. True strength comes from being able to embrace your vulnerability. It's not about spilling your guts to anyone who will listen. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about acknowledging your fears, your insecurities, your pain, and then using that awareness to grow. Vulnerability isn't a weakness, it's a superpower. It's what allows us to connect with others on a deeper level, to build trust, to inspire change. So start small. Open up to someone you trust. Share a piece of your story, a glimpse of your inner world. And notice what happens. You'll find that vulnerability doesn't make you weaker, it makes you stronger. It's the key to the depth and authenticity we crave. The sixth problem, questioning societal norms, is both a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, it allows us to see through the illusions that hold others back. On the other hand, it can make us feel like outsiders, like we don't belong. The trick here is to embrace your role as a disruptor. Don't shy away from questioning the status quo. Use your skepticism as a tool for growth, for innovation, for change, but don't let it consume you. It's easy to fall into the trap of cynicism, to see the flaws in everything and everyone. Instead, focus on what you can create, on the solutions you can offer, on the impact you can make. Remember, the goal isn't to tear everything down, it's to build something better. Finally, the seventh problem, the paradox of freedom. As Sigma males, we value our independence above all else. But with great freedom comes great responsibility. The key is to embrace that responsibility, to own your choices, to take full accountability for your life. This is where true freedom lies, not in the absence of constraints, but in the ability to choose your path and accept the consequences. And here's the secret. Freedom isn't just about what you do, it's about how you think. It's about freeing yourself from the expectations of others, from the fear of failure, from the need for approval. When you master your mind, you master your life. And as Sigma males, this is our ultimate goal. By now, we've dissected the 7 problems only Sigma males will understand, and we've begun to see how these challenges are not just obstacles, but opportunities for growth and self-mastery. But this final part is where it all comes together. Because being a Sigma male isn't just about surviving the unique struggles we face, it's about thriving in spite of them. It's about leveraging these experiences to unlock a level of self-awareness, freedom, and purpose that most people can only dream of. So let's go even deeper. Let's revisit the isolation we talked about earlier. One of the most profound realizations you can have as a Sigma male is that being alone and being lonely are two very different things. Loneliness is a void. It's the feeling that something is missing. But solitude is a choice. It's a space where you can recharge, reflect, and refine your vision for your life. The key to thriving in solitude is to change your perspective. Instead of seeing it as something imposed on you, see it as a gift you've given yourself. Use this time to cultivate your mind, to learn new skills, to dive into your passions. And when you do step back into the world, don't just seek out connection, create it. Be the one who initiates meaningful conversations, who builds bridges instead of waiting for them to appear. Remember, the quality of your relationships will always reflect the quality of your own self-awareness. When you know who you are, you attract people who resonate with that energy. Now, let's go deeper into the burden of self-reliance. One of the hardest lessons to learn as a Sigma male is that strength isn't about doing everything on your own. It's about knowing when to stand alone and when to collaborate. Think of it like this. A lone wolf is powerful, but a wolf pack is unstoppable. The key is to find your pack. These aren't people who will try to control you or box you into their expectations. These are people who respect your independence but are willing to stand beside you when the storm hits. And here's another thing. Self-reliance doesn't mean you have to reinvent the wheel. Learn from others who have walked a similar path. Read their books, listen to their stories, absorb their wisdom. The more knowledge you have, the more equipped you'll be to handle life's challenges on your own terms. Remember, self-reliance isn't about isolation, it's about empowerment. When it comes to the pressure to adapt, one of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop seeing yourself as someone who has to fit into the world and start seeing yourself as someone who can shape it. Here's the truth. The world needs people like us. It needs thinkers, disruptors, visionaries, people who challenge the norm and offer new perspectives. So instead of constantly adapting to fit in, start adapting to stand out. Use your unique perspective to add value to the spaces you inhabit. Speak up when something doesn't align with your values. Offer solutions that others might not have considered. And most importantly, stay true to who you are. Because when you do, you're not just surviving in a world that doesn't understand you, you're leading it. Now, let's dive into the existential challenge of finding purpose. Here's the thing about purpose. It's not a destination, it's a journey. And as Sigma males, we're uniquely equipped for this journey because we're not afraid to question, to explore, to experiment. But one of the traps we can fall into is overthinking. We get so caught up in trying to figure out the perfect purpose that we forget to take action. Here's the secret. Purpose isn't something you find by thinking, it's something you discover by doing. Take action, even if you're not sure where it will lead. Start that project, write that book, launch that business, take that trip. Each step you take will bring you closer to what feels right. And don't be afraid to fail. Failure isn't the opposite of purpose, it's a part of it. Every misstep teaches you something, refines your vision, and brings you closer to your truth. When it comes to vulnerability, here's a game-changing insight. Vulnerability isn't just about opening up to others, it's about opening up to yourself. It's about being brutally honest with yourself about what you want, what you fear, and what's holding you back. And this kind of self-awareness is what sets Sigma males apart. We're not afraid to look in the mirror and confront the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. But here's the catch. Self-awareness without self-compassion is just self-criticism. So while it's important to be honest with yourself, it's equally important to be kind to yourself. Treat yourself with the same understanding and empathy you would offer a close friend. And when you do open up to others, choose wisely. Not everyone deserves access to your inner world. But when you find those rare people who do, don't hold back. Vulnerability is the bridge that turns acquaintances into allies, and allies into lifelong connections. Now let's revisit the constant questioning of societal norms. One of the biggest challenges here is avoiding the trap of cynicism. When you see through the illusions that most people accept as reality, it's easy to feel disillusioned, even bitter. But cynicism is a dead end. It closes doors instead of opening them. The key is to approach life with curiosity instead of judgment. Instead of just pointing out what's wrong with the world, ask yourself, what can I do to make it better? How can I use my unique perspective to create something meaningful? And remember, not everyone will understand your way of thinking, and that's okay. You're not here to please everyone. You're here to live a life that's true to you. So keep questioning, keep challenging, but don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Your skepticism is a tool. Use it to build, not just to dismantle. Finally, let's tackle the paradox of freedom. Freedom is the ultimate goal for Sigma males, but it's also the ultimate test. Because freedom isn't just about doing whatever you want, it's about taking full ownership of your life. It's about making choices that align with your values, even when they're difficult. It's about accepting the consequences of those choices without blaming others or making excuses. And it's about recognizing that true freedom starts in the mind. If you're still a prisoner to fear, doubt, or the opinions of others, you're not truly free. So how do you break free? Start by challenging your own limiting beliefs. Ask yourself, what stories am I telling myself that are holding me back? What fears are keeping me from taking the next step? And then do the work to rewrite those stories. Because here's the truth. The only thing standing between you and the life you want is the story you're telling yourself about why it's not possible. As we bring this journey to a close, here's the final insight. Being a Sigma male isn't about fitting into a label or living up to some ideal. It's about embracing who you are with all your strengths and struggles and using that self-awareness to create a life that's uniquely yours. It's not an easy path, but it's a rewarding one. And the challenges we face, they're not obstacles, they're stepping stones. They're the experiences that shape us, that strengthen us, that push us to grow. So if you're a Sigma male, own it. Walk your path with confidence, knowing that you're not alone in your struggles, and that those struggles are what make you who you are. The journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning.